Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Knock on Bucs podcast. I am your host, Anthony Knock Reiner, and on today's episode, I'm telling you what I'm watching for in the Bucs' first preseason game against the Cincinnati Bengals. But first, if you enjoy this content, please hit the like and subscribe button on YouTube. You can also follow me on Instagram at Knock on Bucs or on Twitter at the Knock on Sports. So please help and support the channel. Would very much appreciate it. But guys, let's talk about this. We got our first Bucs preseason game. I'm excited. I'm jacked. I can't wait to watch this game come Saturday night. I'm just happy we've got Bucs football. Training camp has been great. A lot of great things have come out of training camp. Obviously, we know Tristan Wirfs got his big contract extension. If you guys missed it earlier this week, I had a column come out. I talked about Devin White's comments, the former Buccaneers linebacker, as he is now with the Philadelphia Eagles. If you guys want to check that out on Substack, just type in the Knock on Bucs. But obviously, a lot of really good things. The chemistry, we've heard about that many, many times from a lot of different people throughout the brass and throughout the coaching staff and through the players as well. So really excited to see what this team looks like once we actually get to Saturday night against the Cincinnati Bengals. And I'm not looking for anything in terms of starters or it's like, is this going to signify the season? But this really will tell us the depth of this team. We've got some undrafted free agents that have really shined in camp, and this is the time for them to shine really because this is how they're going to make this squad in these preseason games. So one of the first things that I do really want to see is the return game. So far in the first couple of preseason games, you go back to the Hall of Fame game, you go back to the Carolina-New England game, as well as the Detroit and Giants game. Didn't see a ton from the return game in terms of like electrifying plays. I know a lot of people have been complaining about it, but I'm here hoping that maybe the Bucs will have better fortunes in the return game with this new rule change. Maybe we can actually kind of lead the way in terms of kickoff returns for touchdowns. I know that's a foolish hope, but hey, it's a hope nonetheless. Getting to the actual players, one of the things that I do want to see is I want to see Kyle Trask. He's going to get the start. We know Baker Mayfield and most of the starters aren't going to play, but I do want to see Kyle Trask. He's shown some good things in preseasons past, and I want to see if that continues, especially with the new offense. I think the Bucs would be smart to re-sign Kyle Trask as a backup going into next year. I like him as a backup. I think he could definitely come in and fill a role if Baker gets hurt. Hopefully Baker doesn't. We'd love to keep Baker healthy for 17 games and more into the playoffs, but I want to kind of see what Trask does with this offense under new offensive coordinator Liam Cohen. One of the other guys that I want to see is Kalen DeLoach, the linebacker. He kind of talked about it. You know, he's big, he's fast, he's strong. He wants to make plays. He wants to fly around and hit people. And that's the thing for me is like, okay, we do need to see what kind of depth we have. You know, Servachier Dennis as well. What can he bring to the table in terms of linebacker? So seeing those two paired up on the inside, we know Levante David's not playing, KJ Britt's not playing. So I want to see how these two guys fly around and make plays on this defense, because one of the things that you've heard about in training camp is how fast this defense is, especially with the youth movement that we've seen with it. So kind of want to see him. Really excited because a lot of good things have come out of training camp about him. So want to see how he does in this first action of the preseason. One of the other guys I want to see, and it sticks with the defensive principle here, is Marquise Watts and Jose Ramirez. These are guys that were picked up last year by the Bucs, and these guys did a whole lot of time on the practice squad last year. And you go coming into the camp, you know, you heard a lot of good things. It seems like a lot of the brass are really happy with the development they've seen from these two guys. So I'm very curious because, like I said, I'm excited. I hope we have the depth pieces because right now it's thin at the pass rushing spot or at least outside linebacker, I should say, which ultimately ends up into the pass rushers. But we are very thin there. Obviously, Yaya Diaby, thankfully that wasn't a major injury. We know he'll be ready come week one. You know, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka was shaken up a little bit with that shoulder. Looks like he came back, but we know he's not playing. So this is a golden opportunity here for Watson Ramirez and to see if we can develop some more pass rushers so that way we don't have to go to free agency or go to some of these other guys. We know Randy Gregory's not coming to Tampa. That's just a fact. He hasn't been there yet. He ain't coming. So this is a good opportunity for these guys to show the brass that they don't need to go looking for a free agent pass rusher to bring in. These guys can fill in those roles and fill in the holes in terms of the depth very well. So I'm very curious to see how those guys put it together. The wide receiver room, Cameron Johnson's a guy that's really stood out in camp so far. If you haven't heard his name, it's been mentioned a couple times about what he's been able to do. Again, I don't think he's not challenging for that third or fourth receiver role. I think that's Jalen McMillan and Trey Palmer's role, but being that depth piece, maybe that fifth wide receiver, that sixth wide receiver if they need him, or at the very least a good return man, that would be very interesting as well. I know he's been held out of training camp the last few practices, so I'm curious to see if he is going to suit up for this game. But if he does, I'm very curious to see how he performs, one in the return game and as well as in the receiving realm as well, because you need to get that opportunity at some point, either being the second quarter or even the third and fourth quarter for sure. The other area that I'm watching is the tight end room. Now, Cade Otton's going to make this team. He's going to be the starter, but he played 97% of the offensive snaps last year. Got to have somebody to help spell him. Now, I'm a big fan of Payne Durham. I thought they probably should have used him a little bit more. Maybe he wasn't ready. I don't know. But I want to see how he's used in Liam Cohen's offense, and can he make some big catches, and can he also block? We did see at times where the tight ends had trouble blocking people, especially in the short yardage. Can he be an effective blocker as well? Because that's going to help him stay on this roster. O'Keefe and Devin Culp. I like O'Keefe. I love the fiery hair and just his personality. He's kind of a fan favorite. I hope he can make this roster, but it's going to be tough. But he's got to show more in the receiving game, and he's got to be a really better blocker than Devin Culp, because he's going to have to force the Bucs brass to make that decision. Do we want him to keep him as a blocker because he's that much more effective than Durham and Culp, or he's going to get cut? I think this is a big statement for O'Keefe to keep his job in Tampa Bay. So this tight end room is something to keep an eye on throughout this game as well. And then obviously the rookies. You go to Chris Braswell as an outside linebacker. I know I mentioned Marquise Watson, Jose Ramirez, but again, he's a rookie. He's not going to get cut, but kind of want to see what his development looks like so far early on as a rookie. I think of Graham Barton. Kind of want to see how he plays. I figure he probably gets 1, maybe 2 series because they do want to see him play. And I figure as well we're going to see Ezra Klein, the kid from UTEP, the guard, and I want to see how he plays as well, kind of see, because again, we need to see that depth on the offensive line. As we know, the Bucs already lost Suapeta for the season. So again, what kind of depth can they have behind Ben Bredesen? And that's going to be key, because again, you got to have that depth, and that's what this preseason is all about. Is what kind of depth did you bring in throughout the offseason? Did you bring in the right guys? And we'll see if all these guys can perform very well. But these are the guys that I'm keeping an eye on. And like I said, I really want to see Deloach play. Marquise Watts, Jose Ramirez. I want to see how, they are, at least Ramirez and Watts in year 2, and I want to see how Deloach plays as a linebacker. Does he play freely? I mean, does he have a good grasp of this defense? Because a lot of the times that you're talking about with what you've heard from Coach Bowles and company is just a lot of good football IQ guys in this room right now. So really curious to see if Deloach has a good grasp on this defense so far, and if he does, that'll allow him to play fast and make plays. So really want to see what he does. I'm really excited to see him play come Saturday night. But the biggest thing that I'm excited for is that we have Bucs football again, Bucs fans. So I'm really excited that we get to see these guys in a game, even though it's preseason. And yeah, I know, probably by the third preseason game, I'll definitely be ready for week 1 against the Commanders. But for right now, I'm just excited to see our favorite team suited up with the helmets on and ready to rock and roll against another team. So I hope you guys enjoy the game against the Cincinnati Bengals on Saturday night. That's going to do it for us here on the Knock on Bucs. Again, I hope you guys enjoy the game Saturday night against the Cincinnati Bengals. If you like this content and if you like my channel, please hit the like and subscribe button. I would very much appreciate it. You can also follow me on Instagram at Knock on Bucs, and you can follow me on Twitter at The Knock on Sports, and you can check out my written work on Substack at The Knock on Bucs. I'm Anthony Knockreiner. Enjoy the game Saturday night.